It's from Linkwood Distillery. It's 11-year-old. It's bottled by the Single Cask. Let's see if it's a whiskey win or a whiskey bin. Hello and welcome to Whiskey Whims with me, Stuart. Today we've got an 11-year-old Linkwood by the Single Cask. It's bottled at 54.7% ABV, matured in ex-bourbon, and it's also non-chill filtered, no added colouring, and basically it's the full BAM, the full whiskey. It's cask number 803826. It costs £60 on the Single Cask's website. I think Master and Malt are selling it for about £80. So there's a bit of a price difference there. And this is also bottle 47 of 156. So it seems it's quite limited. I think that's enough about the bottle, about the whiskey itself. There's a little bit of charring in there. What I'll do is I'll put this away for now so that it doesn't mess with the screen. I've found difficulties with glass in the green screen, and I'll try and show the charring effect of the bottle. So when the bottle sits for a while, basically the char lies and the sediment lies, so I shake it up before I have the whiskey. So we'll get right down to the nosing, the palate and the finish. I think this is my first Single Cask on the channel. I do have several others from them. It seems that when I get a whiskey from an independent bottler that I enjoy, I end up buying loads of different whiskies just to see if they're going to slip up or if they just always produce quality. So far the Single Cask has been quite solid, so it'll be interesting to see what other whiskies are like and to see if the range is always that good. But yeah, let's get down to this whiskey and see what this is all about. The nose, there's kiwi, there's some maltiness, a little cinnamon, it's a bit dusty, fresh grapes. I quite like using the adjective moist, so it's like moist fresh grapes. Not much cream, surprising. I thought there would be a kind of more vanilla, more creaminess with the bourbon, but it's just quite fresh, quite crisp, quite fruity, not really creamy at all. The palate, it's a very green whiskey, if that makes sense. There's like fresh cut grass, there's kiwi again, there's green apples, there's green grapes, so not just on the palate being as generic as just grapes, there's green grapes now. There's something herbal, quite herbal, I think it's sage, so there's also malted loaf with nuts, but yeah, I think it's sage. I'm not the best with herbal, with ingredients like that. I always have to have something in so I can try it and relate it to it. Unfortunately I don't have any sage in the house, so I'll just have to go on my word and say it's sage. The finish is medium. There's some nuttiness carrying on from the malt loaf with the nuts in it. There's a little bit of probably kiwi again. It's got that kind of acidic feel on the tongue. There's also cinnamon, definitely cinnamon again. It's somewhat young and fresh as a whiskey, it seems, but nothing too young, if that makes sense. It seems quite right. Probably just the right optimum age to bottle it at. I think if it was any earlier, it probably would have been too much, but I think 11-year-old is just the right mark to bottle this. I think there's something minty, and there's also some brown sugar right at the end of this finish. Yeah, it's definitely brown sugar at the end. Just before we finish up and give my conclusion, I'm going to add a little bit of water in it. I did bring water along, because I don't really add water in my reviews, but I feel like I probably should. So we've got some water in there, there's a little haze. There's a lot of honey now. Mint on the nose as well. I think I said in the nose that there was dust, or something dusty, but now that's completely evaporated. On the palate, the water seems to have opened up the honey maltiness. It's a little creamy now in the palate, but still the fresh green fruits are so dominant. They're drowning out any creaminess there, even with the additional water. It kind of tames that youngness to it, or the freshness of it, and the vanilla creaminess sort of comes through, but nothing as strong as those fresh green fruits. It's quite a malleable whiskey, if that's the right word, or quite it's a solid whiskey. You can add water, obviously you can't take water away, but you can add water, add more water. It seems to stand up against it. It's quite rounded, well rounded, it's complex enough, although it's quite consistent. There's a few different flavours in there, and it's £60, non-chill filtered, no added colour, and it's definitely a whiskey win. I think it's well worth the price. If I finish this whiskey, if it's still for £60 on the website, I probably will buy another bottle, and I definitely recommend it. It's really nice, a really enjoyable whiskey, one of my favourites from what I've tried from the Single Cask so far, and at £60 you really cannot complain for what you're getting. So once again, thanks for watching. I've been Stuart, this has been Whisky Whims. I'll see you later.